Good afternoon, everybody. My name is MiAhtheking, and every novel is a mystery novel if you never finish it. Now, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Moonshine Inc. Oh yeah. This looks hilarious, but also looks interesting. Developed by Clabiter and published by Clabiter. Man, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. What the heck is the deal with all these super strange development team names? Oh, and if they sound familiar, that's because they are. Clabiter also made such games that were also on my channel. We, The Revolution, and Crossroads Inn. So, cool! Time to check out what they got for me this time. Anyway, this game is about what you'd expect. It's a moonshine simulator kind of game. It was not released in early access at the time of recording, and is selling for $20 American. So let's dive right into this bad boy. So you play as this guy who wanted to move to the big city and achieve greatness. We've all heard that cliche story before, but this time you quit your job and open up your own illegal business, because of course, that's the obvious next step. Anyway, the police show up like you would expect and break it up, and you have no choice but to move back to the forested mountains to start your own business all over again, moonshinin'. You end up having to create your own recipes, building the necessary fermentation apparatus things, deliver the product to selling points, rinse and repeat, all while unlocking new tech through a tech tree, responding to random events that can help or hinder you, all while following a somewhat interesting story. And yeah, that's the whole premise of the game. Pretty self-explanatory and simple, but whatever, it's a moonshine simulator game. I wasn't expecting Shakespeare here. Anyway, so luckily the game has a pretty decent tutorial, which you're really going to need, as this game is complicated as all hell. But we'll get into all that here in a minute, because we're going to go into the good and the bad. So first up is the good, and the first good thing that I want to mention is the tutorial. It's well written, not too difficult to understand, and not too overwhelming. Overall, it's pretty darn good. It was helping me learn how to play this game, which is good, because the game is complicated. I'll go into all of this a little bit later. Next up is the price tag. It's not bad. For $20, this is what I would expect. So with everything being offered here and everything they're giving you, that $20 price tag is extremely appropriate. Next up is the music and the voice acting. The sound effects are kind of non-existent. No real ambiance or background sound effects of any kind to speak of, except for the occasional wolf howling in the distance for some reason. But the music is pretty good, sets the tone the way you'd expect, and then you've got the voice acting. And while as far as I can tell it's only in the opening cutscene, but hey, at least it sounds pretty good and on point, so no complaints here. Then you've got the user interface. At first, it seems a bit complicated, with too much stuff. But as you become more comfortable with the game and start to learn your way around, you quickly realize that it's actually not that complicated at all. It's actually pretty simple and easy to understand if you take the time to pay attention. And finally, the last thing on the positives that I want to talk about is the overall gameplay. This is also going to be in the negatives, however, so make sure you stay to the end and hear all about it. So, for the gameplay, it does have a weird kind of addictive nature to it. A lot of micromanaging in places you probably don't want it. And I'm going to be honest, in terms of gameplay, I didn't know what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't this. This game requires you to know a lot about Moonshine prior to playing it, because even with all the explaining, I still barely know what's going on. But that's just the tip of what I'm going to talk about later, so for now, we're going to keep going on with the good. It's kind of easy to figure out what you're doing, and it has its own level of unique creativity that makes you want to keep playing to do better. You have the base building section, you have the optional events that happen and that you need to respond to. It has the main story quests and the side story quests that give you rewards and expect you to do different things. It even goes so far as to give you different menus and screens depending on what you're doing. A whole new page for going to the store with its own store music, which I thought was really interesting and creative. Different traveling locations for delivering moonshine, hiring workers with positive and negative traits, a police alert system that if it gets too high they raid your base and it's pretty much game over, and there's much more than that to the gameplay, like creating your very own moonshine recipe. So for the gameplay, there's definitely a lot here that you can fiddle around with and enjoy. And it's all very intuitive too. It's not weird, it doesn't feel awkward, and the gameplay just feels right somehow. It's hard to explain, but you know what I mean if you've been playing games for a long time. They either feel good or they don't feel good. And, you know, this one might have its problems, but at least it feels good to play. And I know this is going to sound weird, but by the end of my review period, I actually found myself really wanting to keep playing, wanting to master these recipes and get them just right, wanting to make more money and expand, wanting to continue with the story and see what was going to happen next. I really wanted to grow in this game, and that shows a weird level of addictive gameplay that's always a good sign in simulator games like this. But now we got to go into the bad things about this game, so make sure you pay attention, and I hope some of you out there are still here watching. Don't want to miss out on the negatives, right? Because then, what if there's something you can't stand? Exactly. Now then, the first negative that I'm sure you would have seen right away is the graphics. The game is definitely not the most beautiful. Now the art isn't bad everywhere, like it definitely has its own style, especially in the menu screens, and in some ways it's quirky and it works. But the graphics of your base and the character models is just awful. I mean, it actually hurts my eyes. And here's another thing about this. I hired 3 men to work for me. All their models look exactly the same. Now, I suppose it's not the biggest negative because you barely be looking at your base while playing, mainly looking at menu screens and whatnot as you manage your business. But still, it's just ugly as hell, and whenever you get out of those menus and you have to look at your base, you're just reminded of the ugliness. Then you've got the game itself. It's not exactly stable. I've run into several bugs, including one that you're going to be seeing right now. See, this is me stuck in the tutorial, unable to press anything, unable to get out of it or do anything, and it's not the only bug I found, just the only one I was lucky enough to capture in my recording. So its stability is questionable. I mean, don't get me wrong, for the most part it worked, but it did have other bugs, like my clicks, not actually clicking anything, stuff like that. Oh yeah, another thing that happened that couldn't be explained was me randomly failing a quest mission. It wanted me to deliver 60 liters of a moonshine that uses maple syrup. I did that. In fact, I sent him more than the 60 liters that he requested, and it failed. Now, I know the problem wasn't that I gave him more, because 2 attempts later, while giving him more than he asked, the quest was completed. So why the hell did it fail the last 2 times? All I did was repeat myself until it worked, so what? You want to explain this one to me, game? Was like, did I not get there fast enough or something? Because it still said I had 5 days left to complete the mission, so I don't understand. Then you've got the tutorial. While it's mostly pretty good, it was missing out on a few key points of information, and these were important ones, like the police alert level. It doesn't tell you how to lower the police level. It kinda makes mention of lowering the risk of selling moonshine in one spot. By not selling it for a while, the risk will go down, but it doesn't make mention of the police level at all. See, there's a difference between risk level and police level. Sorry about that. The police level grows over time in like chunks, like these little dots that you can see on the screen. And then you've got the risk level, which I think it means that the higher the risk, the more likely the police are going to raid that selling spot and take all your moonshine and then maybe increase the police level. I don't know. So there's a police level and a risk level, and they're different. And I don't know because the game didn't explain it to me. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying my best to explain it, but it's hard to when the game didn't explain it. And so there's no way to lower the police level. You can lower the risk level, but no way to lower the police level, at least not that I know of as of this moment. So I don't know what to do about that. It's kind of minor, because I didn't run into any problems with that, but the game basically expects you to figure a lot of this stuff out yourself, which leads me to the next negative. The gameplay can be kind of difficult. I mean, the game gives you recipes in a very weird, hard to understand fashion, and even the tutorial doesn't really help you to understand it. And there's a lot of stuff in the creation of moonshine that isn't fully explained either. So the tutorial kinda guides you, but then it expects you to figure out the rest yourself. But here's the problem. The gameplay is more complicated than you might imagine and really forces you to think, focus, and take it very seriously to make moonshine. I mean, you basically already need to have some kind of basic understanding of making moonshine, or the chemistry behind it at least, or else you'll have to do the tutorial several times to just get a general idea, and even then you won't be able to get 100% sure if you're doing it right. It's almost too complicated, and even when you're doing everything right, it still doesn't work the way it should have. It's just frustrating, and that's due to the confusing nature of the gameplay and the tutorial. Then they have the base view. It's almost pointless. Why even have it included at all? All you do is place things willy-nilly with no rhyme or reason. And it doesn't affect anything, so it's almost like it was tacked on last minute just in case players wanted it. But it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't do anything, and honestly, I think the game could have either done it better or not done it at all. And that's pretty much the only negatives that I could find in my gameplay. So, in conclusion, this game is definitely interesting. Is it worth the asking price? Yeah, I think it is. There's enough there, including replayability, tech trees, worker management, base management, garage and vehicle management, creation of your own moonshine, length of gameplay, and overall general quality to make it worth its asking price. But is this game for you? Well, that depends. If you like simulation games, then yeah, this game will definitely scratch that itch for you. I mean, I've definitely seen worse. And even though it has its problems, I can't exactly say it's awful. I mean, it's not great, not by a long shot, but it's not terrible either. The bottom line is this: if you love simulator games and you've got 20 bucks to spare, then pick this game up and give it a try. Just be prepared for some bugs and glitches and have to actually learn how to make moonshine. But if that doesn't sound fun or worth it to you, then you should pass on this game. It's not going to be game of the year or anything, you know, you're not missing anything, it's not some hidden gem that you just have to get and play. But if you're looking for something new and different and you have nothing better to do, then yeah, sure, go ahead and pick it up. So that's all the time I got for this video, everybody. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure, and until then, I bid you all farewell.